Before the actual Nürburgring arrived on the iRacing service, many referred to Virginia International Raceway as the mini Green Hell. Long, twisting, hilly, and narrow, it is among the most demanding circuits that most series will visit. And if you think it's difficult with a single class, try putting a multi-class race onto this tarmac. That's what we're doing today as we get ready to watch round 7 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, hans-joachim, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, glad to have you back in the booth with me this week, and looking forward to you giving us the lowdown on VIR.
Yo, boy, I love supersonic flight, man. We go from Italy. We find ourselves now in Alton, Virginia, here at Virginia International Raceway. Of course, we all know it as VIR, but you know, they built this facility originally in 1957, and man, it was a sports car racing was huge. Carroll Shelby raced here. It was 3.2 mile circuit, 17 turns, and then mysteriously in the late or the mid 70s, like 1974, it just closed down and lay dormant for 20 years until 98, when developers came in from New York and not redesigned, but basically revitalized the facility, rebuilt it from the ground up, and brought this beautiful facility back, a home, of course, of the famous oak tree. Now, listen, about the track, even though the walls aren't super close in most places, this is a punishing course, and the amount of speed you can carry means an off-course leaves you just sliding all the way out there in the alfalfa, man. You'll keep going and going and going. Now, the best thing to do is let me stop talking, let you start watching another GSRC lap guide around VIR.
All right, we've got Clayton McLeod in the GSRC Nissan, so let's do a lap around VIR. Coming down the front stretch, the horseshoe is going to be a very popular place to pass. Heavy braking and the draft will certainly offer opportunities. This two-part corner has a deceptively late apex on the first half though, so try not to turn in too early. You should be able to power through the second apex, but line the car up to the right because you'll want a nice wide line through the kink leading to NASCAR Bend. It'll be easy to dip a wheel entering this left-hander, so expect a few drivers to lose it. Then we hit left hook. This is a very slow and frustrating chicane, but it leads directly into the snake. A little lift will get you through, then straight line these S's. Hopefully, you got to the power pretty quickly. You need the momentum along this part of the circuit since you won't be lifting until you hit South Bend. But before that, we've got to weave through the climbing S's. Try to avoid going too wide through here because it'll get messy very quickly. Then, hold right for the best entry into South Bend. If anyone understeers wide, they're likely to lose control. Switch sides fast and then whoa it up for Oak Tree. Let it swing out after the first apex and then just clip that inside curb while you get back to the power. It is extremely important that you get a good run down the back straight. It's all uphill and it's a very long acceleration zone. You'll be under attack pretty quickly if anyone outguns you onto here. The problem is, if they only manage to get side by side, I wouldn't advise trying to keep next to them into the roller coaster. The kinked entry makes braking incredibly tricky into this slow, blind right-hander. Right away, the track weaves its way back downhill, but get the car off to the right and try to spot your turn in for hog pen. Once again, the bend of the road makes slowing up the car a bit difficult. But just like a number of corners around here, you'll find the critical aspect is getting to the gas coming out of the bend. We're now coming back up the pit straight, and you've finished a lap around VIR.
There you can get a good sense of just how twisty it is around this track. So many turns, even though it's a pretty long lap length. Now, let's take a look at the points championships. We have 4 of them to go through, of course, in this series. And the prototypes, the GTPs, Fabian Gerber leads the way, holds on to his lead, and Clayton McLeod stays in second. Everything else has switched up. Look at that. Schneider and Albrecht have each bumped up to. Albrecht actually joins the top 5 here. And then Fabian Jungluth gets bumped down, unfortunately. But still relatively tight there at the lower reaches. Then we have the GTP Lights, the Amateur Championship here in the faster class. John Keefe still leading by a scant margin. 5 points between himself and Rugenbrink. Johnny Bell, of course, sitting there in third. is a little ways back, and Richard Keogh has bumped up one up into fourth, but he and Mike Kopak just still in a tight fight. Of course, we have the Audi classes. There's two of them that we're covering. Sean, what are we looking at there?
Yes, Joe. Let's start with the GTO standings here. And boy, there's Villarreal still sitting at the top. Not a lot of movement here, obviously, except when you get down to the bottom. And Ove coming back here now and now up into fourth, tied with Jamie Hall. But Houghton, Thompson still a whole station there in second and third. And boy, this is going to be a really tight championship battle. They got to catch Rarola. Hope maybe he has a little luck, a little bad luck down the stretch. But again, Joe, you see how just really tight it is at the top. It belongs to anybody right now with still 6 races to go. Now let's look at the GTU standings. And Matthew Jette, the Canadian there at the top. 1 point separates him and Hideki Koivitso. Obviously, that's the real battle to watch here right now. Now, we do have one drop week factoring in here this season. So there you see the drop amounts there. Shanahan, 12 points back. Certainly not out of this. Down at the bottom in fourth and fifth. A little bit of work to do to get to the top. But that's how we stand with the Audis right now, Joe.
Indeed. As the times start to trickle in, let's give you a quick update on what this race will entail here under these cloudy skies today in Virginia. We are on round 7 out of 12, with this being official racing. Now, I know it says 2 drop weeks there, but it is 3, which we showed there in our points graphics. They get 3 drop weeks this season. Race distance is a sprint race this time around. With it being 40 minutes, you should not expect any pit stops to be scheduled. Of course, that doesn't mean that we won't wind up with some cars in the pits. The setups are open, so they can tweak both the Audi and the Nissan to their desires, which will be important in a track like this. And of course, you saw what the point scoring was there as well. And taking a glance over at where the times are on our qualifying sheet, Fabian Gerber currently up at the top for the GTPs, and Rob Olenek has the pole over in the Audi. Sean?
Well, Rob's been practicing for a while this morning, Joe, and in fact, boy, he was practicing as early as 2 hours ago. So not shocked he's sitting at the top. I'm also not shocked that he's got the number 2 on his car. So that probably has a little bit to do with it. You start looking at the numbers on these cars, and the Audis right now have the strong numbers amongst them. Is currently in qualifying. We've got the number 2, the number 5, and the number 1. Antti Terho, the Finn, right now in third, and only has 1 lap in, still on track. So still plenty to get settled here over the last 2+ minutes.
Indeed, and up at the top of the Nissans, Fabian Gerber, even though he has the pole, he's being hounded by Nicholas Schneider. Although the gap, I'm looking now, pretty far apart. In fact, Fabian increases his pole time. Last time around 34 flat. It is now 1.2 seconds between himself and Schneider. So maybe hassled is the wrong word. I saw that Riley Thompson got his first lap in and was able to put himself 6th in class. Sean and I were talking a little bit about his drop in form, but we understand he's had a lack of time for practice lately. Hopefully, he's had some time this week, because you're going to need it around a track like this.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing we talked about, Joe, he's an impressive young talent who has had very, just not near as much experience. I think he said he's only been on the service for about 1.5 years. And the fact that he can drive these cars and drive them so well, I think speaks to the type of driver he can be in the future. And with a little bit more time in the seat, I think he'll do just fine. You see him just clattering over the curves right there. Probably won't want to do that during the race, but I'm sure Riley's going to be strong today. Right now, even with 6th in qualifying, that's not a bad place to start. You can certainly survive and fight from there as he comes across the line. Let's see what kind of time he can throw down.
Slightly faster, but still stays in 6th, unfortunately. We've almost finished with qualifying, actually. Jamie Hall coming across in the Audis. He sits in 3rd on the 2nd row of those GTO cars. His 2nd lap a little faster as well, and that bumps him up onto the front row. Just going to challenge Rob Olenek today. Clayton McLeod we're watching coming across.
Yeah, 5th. That got him up to 5th. That's not bad.
He needed that too. His first lap did not count, so he was in dire need of a clean one. Let's see who is left. Chris Zylstra and Reed Miller. Apologies to Chris if we are mispronouncing that last name. We need Johan back here, apparently.
Yes. I think Zylstra's a pretty good crack at it. We'll roll with that.
That would be my guess. He's actually done with qualifying. He's done his 2 laps. Reed Miller isn't going to get his last one in because the time is now up, and we will be switching over to our race session. So with that, the grid is set. Let's go through our starting order. Fabian Gerber is going to be on the pole, and it is a huge gap back to Nicholas Schneider. Is this going to be a romp to the finish for the number 3? We'll find out. Yit Tijan starts in 3rd. He'll be flanked by Justin Albrecht. Clayton McLeod starts in 5th today. He's followed by Reed Miller in 6th and Michelle Rugenbrink in 7th. John Keefe, hoping for a little bit better race today, starts in 8th with Radar Anderson in 9th and Martin Krejcik starting P10. Then in 11th, Fabian Jungbluth, who we saw there fighting for the overall championship, and Tanner McCullough starting 12th. Richard Keogh is 13th and last of our GTP class. Let's go to Sean.
All right, and in the Audi GTOs, Rob Olenek on the pole, and he will start right next to his good old buddy Jamie Hall with a 2nd place qualifying effort. A good run for him. Phil in and around the lake is starting in 3rd today, right alongside Michelle de Jong. Auntie Terho will start 5th. Riley Thompson in the number 6 spot. And then that goes back to Nick Bucanos. He'll start 7th today. 8th is going to go to Villi Riola. Bit of a surprise there to see him buried so deep in this field. Merlan Arnazzi is going to start 9th. 10th for Hideki Koivitso. Brian Shanahan. I'm going to assume this might be a bit of a home track for him. Brian Shanahan will start 11th. Eugenio Massa in 12th, and Chris Zylstra is starting 13th today, Joe. And boy, we got a good split here. We got 13 Audis, 13 Nissans, 26 registered, 26 ready to go. Joe, we've got a full field. Let her rip.
Beautifully split. Well, we'll see how they handle that multi-classes. The roof pace car starts to peel off. We just want to give another reminder that if you love all this racing that you see, there's even more that you can find on iRacing's official esports channel. Definitely go check them out. Subscribe. You can get all the official racing and more here on iRacing on their esports channel on YouTube. With that, they head through the first of many, many corners. One of the few really good passing places down into the horseshoe there, Sean.
Yes, it is, Joe. So many corners that they had to name a couple of them twice. We've got turns 5A, 6A, 14A, 17A. So I guess they had a limit, and they said, you know what, we can't go over 17, so we'll just throw some alphabet in there.
Well, yeah, I'm willing to cut them some slack because they do have some really good names. I love some of the corner names around this
left
track.
Hook, man.
NASCAR Bend, Left Hook, Hog Pin, just really feels very appropriate for a track in the middle of Virginia. So
hey, every time I hear I say Left Hook when they're going through it, I hear somebody punching somebody, you know. Boom. Oh, now I'm gonna go all Madden on you.
Oh boy, yeah. Sound effects abound as we watch them head through the climbing S's from out of the snake under the bridge. And oh boy, we got to talk about coming up here to South Bend. I feel like almost any car that you race around this left-hander, this is a tricky corner, Sean.
Not marginal, tricky, tricky, and possibly disastrous, Joe. You're gonna have to be very, very careful through there. Certainly, side-by-side racing. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Well, if you have a drink and you're not over the carpet, pour one out for the oak tree as we work our way around what was once there. Oh, somebody having an issue getting around the corner there? Looked like someone was off into the dirt coming around the exit of the corner. I'm not sure who that was. But
was that Krajcik?
Might have been. It was a red and black car. I know that.
Okay, then Krajcik then.
No. So, but up the long backstretch. Now, in the Nissans, we usually don't expect them to have a lot of draft. What about these GTO cars, Sean? Is it long enough for them to punch a hole that you can gain on someone?
Definitely. Yeah, Joe. I think we're going to see that quite a bit. And in fact, it might even see them, being able to pace themselves with the Nissans up that hill. So, yeah, there's going to be some great passing opportunities here today for the Audi field, and some great racing between the classes when they get into the long straight.
All right, through the roller coaster. Up next is Hogpen. Very, very difficult curved entry, braking as you're turning, as the track dives away, and you have to get that good exit up here onto the main straight. But for now, they only have to worry about accelerating to the green flag, because the roof pace car peels off into pit lane. That's going to give Gerber control of the field. Green flag waves here in round 7 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. Gerber is off like a shot. Schneider, though, very clear of the cars behind, as Yit Tejan cycles into third, but he's having to fend off Albrecht. Looks like going to be clean run here through the first corner. Let's go to the Audis.
Man, I'll tell you what, Olenek got off to a great start, but Jamie Hall was right up alongside. The real problem on that start, boy, it was for Riley Thompson. He got way out into the grass, Joe, out of the horseshoe, and had to come all the way back to the track. That's already dropped him back to 10th place. He just gets around Hideki Koivitso, actually, up to 9th.
And mysteriously, Brian Shanahan very slow out of the first corner. Maybe he missed a shift. We don't know. We'll have to find out later. But Rob Olenek leads your GTO class. Fabian Gerber leads your GTPs. And we're only halfway through the first lap. You can see the GTOs snaking their way up through the climbing S's and into South Bend.
Yeah, and listen, Joe, the Audis are right behind them. The Nissans have not just broken away from the start the Audis had, but they have gone line astern, nose to tail. Although a battle for second, Phil Lake, Jamie Hall, teammates going at it now. Looks like Phil's going to get the better of that.
Indeed. And something has happened to Albrecht, who is up towards the front. This is in the roller coaster. He had some contact with Yit Tejan. And it was a hard hit. You're going to see tires just in the wrong place. We're going to see from Yit's view. It's always scary when you go side by side into that little bend that leads to that corner.
Didn't we talk about that a few minutes ago? Yeah, it's a tough break there. And that's one of the sections of the track where the wall actually comes up, or at least that tire barrier comes up pretty quick, Joe.
Poor Albrecht had to take a tow. He is currently in the pits. Not sure if he's going to have enough time to get this thing back out there. So that promotes Yit up into third position. He's lost touch to Nick Schneider, who's all the way up by 2 seconds in P2. And he as well losing touch of our leader, Fabian Gerber, the number 3, already around Oak Tree and down the backstretch. But as we've seen in this series, Sean, that even because you've got a big lead does not mean you're going to come away with the win. Traffic, a big factor, especially on a track like this.
Yeah, Joe, we did allude a little bit to that in the pre-race. It's certainly going to be a factor here at some point. Of course, focus a little bit on the Audis right now, but no battles really breaking out. It seems like we've settled in here off of that crazy kind of restart. And Riley Thompson has now got himself back in a 9th. He had dropped his far as 10th, but now we got a battle for the lead.
Yeah, Philip Lake got a tremendous run, but he's going to have to go side by side down into the roller coaster.
Oh boy.
Barely gets it woed up in time, as this car does not like braking heavily. And incredibly, Olenek fends him off for P1. And while that was happening, De Jong did get third away from Jamie Hall, but I think that's going to go right back. Hall gets held up out of the final corners. We're right on board with Lake. We might have to stick with this, though, because battle for the lead very much back on again.
It's the draft of these cars, Joe. You asked me. I told you they'll get a tremendous tow.
Long way around of Horseshoe, but it's going to switch back in favor. He's able to hold door to door with Olenek, but he squeezes him out of it before NASCAR bend.
Put the NASCAR move on him right there in the bend. Kind of shut the door on his face.
Oh, and Youngbluth with a problem. We're going to look at the replay of what happened to him. This looks like the snake.
Yep. Too much curb there, Joe. That's what it looked like for me.
This Nissan notorious for not liking those curbs. So now we switch back to the GTO battle for the lead once again. Lake wants it. Olenek has it. And if they keep fighting like this, I have to imagine that Hall is going to get up involved in this.
I think so. Michel De Jong back there looking to get in this, Joe. Is he just sped past Antiterho just about a half a lap ago?
In fact, Terho's got to worry about what's behind instead of trying to re-catch De Jong because he's got Billy Rolla. Where did you say he started? Because he was
Phil Lake, goes sliding off. He made the pass on Olenek, and then he overshot the turn, Joe.
Get the replay. He cycles back into fourth place. Just a little bit too hot into the corner. There's a big crest right there, Sean. I have to imagine it makes the car oh so light right when you're getting on the binders.
Yeah, he had this move figured out, and then it wasn't. He hits the top of that curb and slides all the way off. Got really fortunate there, Joe. He was able to reel it back in, get back on course, on board with Olenek here.
Man, he got an eyeful, and I bet he's a little bit grateful that things played out how they did.
Love the helmet, by the way.
Yeah. Well, despite the loss of position, Lake isn't too far behind his class leader. He could still get back into this. But his teammate, Jamie Hall, has been promoted to second and is now looking to hunt down the man who's not wanting to give up P1 quite yet. Speaking of battles for podium spots, up in the GTP class, Clayton McLeod. Whoa, and another of the teammates in Oak Tree Corner.
Things starting off kind of tough for Dirty Torque today.
Sad to see, but hopping over to that battle for third in the prototypes, it's Yit Dijon still holding it down after he unfortunately had some contact with the car that was there, Justin Albrecht, and that's Clayton McLeod and the traditional Nissan livery just behind him and keeping the pressure on. Hasn't been close enough to make a move, but really this is the closest fight that we've got in this class.
Yeah, Clayton giving decent chase here, but their lap time's really, really close. Only separated last time around by about 0.3 of a second. But yet the Mind Trick Motorsports driver right now just looking over his shoulder. Got to be careful here around Oak Tree. Clayton really closed the gap there.
Now, we don't need to go to the replay, but I can tell you that Brian Shanahan has taken a tow. He just spun off the course in South Bend and I guess decided enough was enough. He doesn't like the track. But he is no longer in this race as he is exited. And from looking through the 007 cam at Clayton McLeod, getting awful close to the back of Yit now. Awful exit off a hog pin, though.
Yeah, I just hate to see that with Shanahan. Joe, I don't think he was enjoying his iRacing experience and decided to just go ahead and park it.
A little wide at the first apex of the horseshoe for Dejan. Clayton closes back in that little bit. Have to imagine there's a number of corners in this Nissan that probably a little bit terrifying with the downforce that this thing has and the commitment you need.
Well, you definitely get a chance to show how brave you are. If I'm being honest, I mean, that really, you can push that car as hard as you want, but you know, like any car. Oh, Krajcik with a problem. Oh, what happened to Martin? No, it looked like he got a top of the curb. They're just in the snake. Yeah, the snake bites.
The recoil, unfortunately, just not there for Krajcik. And one of those spots we talked about that it's the barriers are just so close, and unfortunately a little bit of a glitch for him. He gets stuck into the tires and has to take a tow. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, the timing and scoring. I got excited because Gerber was not marked as in the lead. That's because of Krajcik's toe.
Joe, cover the top 5 in the Audis with a blanket right now. I can't believe that the top 5 still so closely packed together here. Poor Nick Bucanos back there in 6th. He's kind of got his own little race going on right now.
It's almost proving to be a bit of a pack race because of some of these long straights.
Yeah.
Fascinating to watch. We have seen a race here. We've called a race here before on GSRC with the Kamel series, but it's been a while. Now, even though they are staying relatively close, not seeing any action up at the front. Everybody just spacing out a little bit. Still led by Olenek, who put it on pole and has been sort of leading since the drop of the green. He's lost the lead for maybe a few hundred feet and then got it right back from any comer that tried to take it away. Next up on trying to remove that from his grasp is Michel de Jong.
Yeah, de Jong, who started back in 6th, kind of in the middle of this GTO pack, and boy, he has picked up some quality positions and done it by racing hard. Right now, just giving Rob a mirror full of the front end of that Jägermeister Audi. And Phil Lake, well, he's still sitting there in 3rd. I think Phil playing the patient game right now, just watching these two here have a run at it. After that little bit of trouble he had, it seems he has backed things off a bit now that he's caught these two again.
Just behind them, things getting tight between Terho and Ruola. So a couple of Finns potentially going to be going at it. They work their way up through the climbing S's, back and forth, then braking hard over the crest through South Bend.
Remember when we were doing the grid? I was worried about Billy Rolla, and Joe, he started 10th. He is in 5th now, and boy, he is driving that car hard towards the front.
And I think, if I'm seeing right, only 2 or 3 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah,
Billy's on a tear. If I recall correctly, he had a bad week last week too, so he's looking to make up for that. Could be remembering incorrectly. I'll have to double check here. But regardless, de Jong getting ever closer to Olenek. In fact, he is going to be well within that slipstream. Gets a decent exit off of Hogpin up the main straight. Is he going to make a move down into the horseshoe? Looks to the outside as a defensive move from Rob. Swings back to the racing line. Nothing from the Benelux driver for now.
Well, I thought there for a second Olenek maybe left the door open, but no, not quite. He's in good shape.
Man, I'm amazed at how closely these guys are fighting. Oh, and a mistake from Antti Terho. Hands it over to Vili Ruola. He slips into 4th. Oh, but he could hand it back as he has trouble coming out of the left hook.
We've actually got a replay of this, Joe.
I wonder if it was a missed shift from Terho. No, looks like he just went wide at NASCAR. Had to collect the car in that Miller Lite machine. Unfortunately, lost a position in the process.
Yeah, better to collect it than to wreck it.
It's a good philosophy, I say.
Yeah, and boy, as I thought De Jong was catching Rob Olenek there, and all it takes is 1 or 2 turns through the twisty bits here, and you know, you can get that back. But De Jong just falling out of the toe, now getting it back just a bit.
Nothing doing into the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Our leader now hitting the GTO traffic. Ooh, and he's going to catch them at a bad place. Gerber rocking up to the back of Hall here through the roller coaster and hog pin. I think he's going to be able to get him at a good time on the front stretch. Yes, indeed. Doesn't look like he'll be held up too badly. There's another down. It'll be even tougher once he reaches this battle between the top 3, which is coming up very shortly, we should say. He is slicing through this GTO field a lot quicker than I thought he would.
This is good stuff. Another great Kamel GT race here on the Global SimRacing channel. We still have a good 15 laps to go.
That was Mukanos. He just worked by. Now he comes up to Turho and Ruola. And then beyond that, it is our podium. And he's going to gain a lot of time through the climbing S's here. Much faster. With a confidence. Well, this is why Fabian Gerber is leading this race. Just no doubts whatsoever in his mind as he passes Audi after Audi. And now comes the top 3 who are battling much closer for position. Lake actually taking a look on De Jong at the moment. And if they go too wide, this is bad news for Gerber. He's going to have to wait patiently. He does have a gap of about 4 seconds over the next GTP car, so he's got time.
You know, Joe, I'm not exactly sure how long ago it was, but Riley Thompson had a little bit of trouble on track. I think he might have gotten a little bit of help from Clayton Cloud, and that spun him way off track. He's able to keep it in 9th place, though, as the spin didn't result in any damage or getting into anything. He, you know, had plenty of grass area to slide off into. But this has not been an easy race for Riley Thompson so far.
Well, and the top of the GTO is certainly not having a fun time right now because Nick Schneider has been moving through them. He had to put Vili Rolla offline, which allowed Turho back up on his gearbox, and now he is plugged up behind the top 3. First up with Lake, gets a straightaway after the snake to try and get 1. Now it gets tougher. Nick Schneider, Michel De Jong up ahead of him, swings around the outside. Can he slip it to the inside of our leader? Nope, has to wait behind Olenek. And sneaks through before Oak Tree. So after they get through that traffic, the gap between Gerber and Schneider now 6 seconds.
Yeah, Gerber having a really good drive here so far. You know, there was a good battle going on between Yet Tejan and Clayton McLeod, but it seems like the traffic split that up just a little bit, Joe. It got, I think it got Krejcik in between them, who of course now is a lap down. It's a couple laps down, actually.
But Yet Tejan having trouble trying to get past the car of Antti Turho. Now that he gets through, he's able to try and pull away from McLeod. McLeod still has to deal with Krejcik. Dutifully pulls over. Nice job by Martin. Oh, the battle for the lead is on for the GTO side by side as Olenek almost goes off. Just out of the corner of my eye, I caught them. And Michel de Jong still isn't able to do it, but he gave it the good old college try. I am amazed that Olenek kept that car in the lead with how wide he went.
Olenek,
good run.
He just does not want to give up this top spot today, man. He'll fight all comers.
Well, and this is proving just how hard it is to pass around this track. So far, multiple attempts from 3 different drivers now, I think. Oh, look at this battle, Yit and McLeod coming into it. That's Yit in the black and white machine. We ride on board with Clayton McLeod in the blue Nissan. And unfortunately, just does not catch traffic at a good space. So this separates both battles we've been watching, Olenek and de Jong. And did something happen to Thompson again?
I think
he hit the wall.
Yeah, we caught it. The director's got it for it here. Here's a replay. Here's the end of it, him going into the Armco barrier there.
This is in the climbing S's. Something we haven't talked about here, Sean, is how much rhythm that requires. And if you're just that little bit off, yeah, just...
Yeah, the car was in the air after the first bump there. Hey, listen, all it takes is to get it wrong once, right, Joe? To have that braking consistency, like you were talking, developing that rhythm. All it takes is just one little misbeat there, and you're done.
So we jump up to the battle for 5th, which is between Rugen Brink and Reed Miller. Very much in the... My goodness, look at the traffic jam that's happening here. This is with our GTO leaders. Yeah, those climbing S's, they can look unassuming, but in some cars they can bring you to tears. I can tell you, as wow, Rugenbrink cutting through de Jong.
Yeah,
putting things very close.
You just said it, cutting through.
Oh, and de Jong is off.
Oh.
Where's Phil Lake, though? He's not able to capitalize because of all the traffic. He was so far back, he's probably kicking himself on that one. But this is battles for position in our GTP cars. That is Tanner McCullough, John Keefe, and Reed Miller all together. And we see the replay. Woo! Talk about getting some air. I saw those wheels go off the ground.
Reed Miller just putting the pass on Tanner McCullough. He was able to step out of the draft and pull the slingshot.
I think that was Keefe getting by Reed.
It was. I'm sorry. Got him mixed up. My bad. Yep. So me adjust my rods and cones.
Keefe now putting himself up into 6th, having started this race in 8th. But yeah, as we were talking about those climbing S's, Sean, a very sad story about that one. When I was leading a Lotus 49 race many years ago, before I won my first one there, I threw it away in there. I wrecked out while in the lead from them. Talk about tears. I was upset.
Well, at least you've competed here in an official race. I don't have the intestinal fortitude for that.
I didn't say I like the track. It's just competed here.
I love
right
the track
with McCullough.
I can't drive.
Again, this is battling for 7th position with Reed Miller. Jumping back to the GTOs, Mukanos and Hall. Boy, Hall is not recovered. He's still down in 7th.
I think he's been so focused on trying to get back to the top. I think it's led to some mistakes, and I think he'd be the first one to tell you he's had a less than stellar drive today, and it started early, unfortunately, and now he finds himself chasing a field that's had traffic come through at once and really split things up. And boy, he's still got a long way to go to catch the podium. He's 7 seconds back from those guys running up front. You know what?
At some point, Clayton McLeod has gotten by Yit Dijon. Was that recent? Let me look. That was maybe about 50 seconds ago through the roller coaster.
Yeah, and Yit, it was all on Yit, actually, as he outbraked himself getting into the turn, and you see the rear end come around. He gets off into the grass. Obviously, got to be careful getting back to the power there, trying to get back on the track, but Clayton pulls off a big move.
Taking advantage. Keeping the car on the track means something around here sometimes. We don't need to go back to it, but as this was happening, Rugenbrink had an off in the oak tree, just spun himself by himself. So another nut falls off the branch.
Into the oak tree?
No, at the oak tree.
Okay, all right.
Well, Clayton McLeod taking evasive action with Eugenio Massa in front of him at South Bend, and that allows Yit Tijan to bring himself back in as he almost loses the car. Clayton McLeod trying to get it going. Yit Tijan takes evasive action. Martin Krejcik slows up to make sure he doesn't get into cars on a different lap from he is, and the race is on for third. Talk about confusion.
Yeah. I mean, I knew working through traffic would be tough. I didn't know that it would present as much excitement as it has so far.
And so did something happen to Reed Miller? I think he had an off in the roller coaster. A slight off.
Yeah, and I wonder, did that start with
No. McCullough hit him on the way out.
Yeah.
See, there it is.
He tries to avoid him, but Reed's car just still in the middle of the track there as he tries to get by. Here's Tanner on board with him now.
Tanner almost had no place to go. He was trying his hardest to stay out of them. Just the slightest of touches, though. It's never a dull moment here in the Kamel GT series. In fact, a battle for second heating up here in the GTOs as Michel de Jong chopping off Philip Blake. We didn't see it on camera, but he is very much trying to fend him off instead of attacking for first now as he's dropped off Olenek by about 2.5 seconds. And Philly Roll is in it now.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, Philly Roll. Boy, look at this battle between Phil and... between Phil and De Jong.
There's one thing I've learned from this series: you can't keep a good fin down. That number 4, I would not have thought would be battling for a podium and potentially a win if he's got the pace. Blake still hounding De Jong up into Oak Tree. This is going to be that critical corner. If Phil can get a launch off of here, he's going to have the slipstream, and he is good, Sean. He is well close to the Benelux driver.
Oh, and Rolla had a problem. Might have gotten a slowdown penalty as he starts backing up.
Need to watch this battle for second. Blake looking what's going to be the inside of the kink, outside.
They made contact.
Blake is able to go on, but De Jong has to wait patiently as multiple positions stream by, get it turned around. We're going to watch the replay.
Yeah, that was tough.
That's a hard call.
Yeah, man.
He barely had a nose in, so I feel like De Jong could say, you weren't far enough inside, but it's a battle for second. It's a top position. You got to be tough.
Yeah. Give the win to Phil Lake right there.
Pretty sure. And De Jong is off again.
Yeah.
He's called it a day. I was just about to say, from what I know of Michel, I have to imagine he's a little hot under the collar right now.
Probably, and that was probably enough for him, and that's unfortunate. Great battle going on there, and listen, we've seen Phil run enough. He certainly didn't mean to get into him, and again, it was a real marginal call. You know what I mean? I don't know that we really call fault one or the other there. That's hard racing, and that happens sometimes.
In the meantime, that's going to move Radar Anderson, up into P6 past Tanner McCullough. Simple pass. Tanner was slow onto the backstretch. Radar just breezed through.
Boy, the the peanut gallery very active today, and feeling pretty lighthearted and comical, actually.
I think we might have the opportunity to run through the field here in these last 10 minutes, Sean. We'll try to, or at least get through the top 5. So let's do that, starting with the prototypes. Fabian Gerber, we wondered if it would be a route. Well, I'd say with a 14.5-second lead, that's a firm yes for the number 3. But you got to give credit to Nick Schneider. He really hasn't been hassled by anybody throughout this whole race. That number 10 has been holding down second place, and in fact, he's got a 12-second lead over the next car, which currently is Clayton McLeod. It hasn't always been that. Clayton has managed to pry that podium spot away from the car that's still about 2.5 seconds back from him. That would be Yit Tijan, the number 13, who's, I have to admit, has impressed me today, as he's been running well up the order and has been fighting hard for that spot, despite some mistakes. Behind him, we haven't talked about him a whole lot. We saw him get 1 spot, but John Keefe, decent run, getting himself up into those top 5. Let's go to the GTOs.
All right, Joe, we're going to start with the leader, Rob Olenek. He's been up there, well, since the green flag dropped, and he has not been interested in giving up that spot at all, and he has fought everyone who's challenged him, and now he's got himself almost a 3-second lead. And then we talk about that lead. We talk about Phil Lake. He's the guy chasing right now. Had that unfortunate incident a little while ago, but he's recovered well from it. Still holds on to second place, being chased by Antitero, who, Joe, considering everything that Anti's had to deal with here, traffic, competitors, he holds on to third place, being chased by Billy Rolla, who, as long as he is still in the race and has a pulse, has a chance to win this race. So Billy right now in 4th, and then it's Jamie Hall there in 5th right now. And of course, we've documented Jamie's trouble, but the fact that he's been able to fight and hang on for a 5th spot right now, I think is nothing but positive for the team.
Well, we picked a good time to go through the field because most of the battles have spread apart like the San Andreas Faults. Really, the closest fight that we have is for second in the GTOs, Lake, Turho, and Ruola. Now, I believe we've called Turho in this series before, but it's been a while since he's been on the broadcast race.
I think so. I don't recall seeing him recently. Joe, Tanner McCullough had a big problem on track in his Nissan. I think our director caught it.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this at all. Right,
Michelle
Michelle
Rugenbrink just misses hitting him as he spun right in front of him. There's Tanner.
And he's had yet more. Here it is. It looks like it's up into the roller coaster. And actually, what I was looking, maybe him just simply trying to get the car back on track. Oh, no, not seeing anything quite yet. Oh, here it is. Out of hog pen. Oh, and Yit Tijan, did Yit Tijan have an issue? Yes, he did. Into NASCAR.
Boy, the car just came around on him too, and I mean it snapped. Turbo lag, maybe.
Well, would that be a place to brake? I would think. Yeah, I would think that's where he's braking. Maybe the car just locked the rears up on him. Well, whatever the case, that bumps him down to 5th now. And how about this? John Keefe in that number 18. He's going to be 4th position, Sean. Talk about an I-rating gain.
Yeah. Boy, and Yit's got his hands full. He's got Radar Anderson right behind him. And listen, Radar has had a great race. I've been impressed with how he's tackled this very tricky VIR course today.
Having gotten himself up into 6th. He started 9th, so a number of spots gained, and more are on the order, with Yit right in front of him being held up by Riley Thompson with no place to go around, and this is bringing Michelle Rugenbrink into things, who almost goes off as we ride on board. We couldn't see it from in the cockpit of Anderson. Now, the battle for 6th place as he looks to the outside, down into Horseshoe. Yit Tijan fins him off for now. things getting hot in the mid-pack of the GTP class.
And Joe, while all that was going on, Anthony Terho got caught with a cut course penalty, and Fairley Raola is now in third.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
big development there. Terho drops off quite a bit. But interestingly, Raola is about a second and a half back from Lake, so that spread those guys apart. And actually, Terho has an off. That was at the roller coaster. We caught just a glance of it there on the screen.
And when it starts to go bad, it starts to go real bad, doesn't it, Joe, sometimes?
It's hard to collect yourself on this course. Got to keep your rhythm, got to keep your focus. Didn't lose a spot, did Terho. Still stays in fourth. Man. He's running out of time, though. We are now about 5 minutes away, excuse me.
Yeah, and Phil Lake's running out of opportunities here to catch Rob Olenek in the GTOs. Oh, let's go to the fifth place battle here. Yet John being attacked by Radar Anderson.
Yeah, we were watching this earlier, and it has not gone away. Up onto the main straight, out of Hog Pen. The accordion apart. That's Rugenbrink at the back in the silk cut Porsche liveried Nissan. No attack this time down into the horseshoe. They don't have much traffic up ahead of them. Milan Arnozzi going to be the first one they meet, but it's a single car. In fact, actually, depending on when John Keefe deals with Arnozzi, Keefe is being held up big time.
Hey man, Arnozzi's up 3 spots. He's looking at a solid day here and keeps racing his line, and yeah, that did help Keefe up just a bit. Now the chains are off and Keefe is back to running, and now he's getting caught here by Yetijan, and that's in not a bad spot. In fact, it looks like he's gonna let off there and let everybody get by pretty clean there, Joe. That's a good move actually by Arnozzi.
He still caused Yit to hold up, to check up a little through the south bend. It looked like Anderson gained some time from it. Not enough for him to make a pass. Really, Rugenbrink got it the worst of these 3. And you could tell by the gaps between the cars just how much it cost him. Running out of laps, running out of time here, Sean. You're going to make a move, you got to do it soon.
You better. It's time to get on your horse and go.
Eugenio Massa, the next one for these prototypes. But we've jumped up to Fabian Gerber, our leader. Leading Nick Schneider now by 20.5 seconds. Gerber is just looking unstoppable. Remember, go ahead.
I was going to say you said Gerber looking unstoppable, and so is Rob Olenek. I don't think Phil's got anything for him today. Rob just keeps outpacing him just a little bit every lap, not by much. It's 2 to 3 tenths of a second, but Phil's just not showing any indication he can make that up here at this point.
Just checking the points to see what this is going to do for Gerber. He's already well ahead of Clayton McLeod, who currently sits in the 3rd position, so that's going to be a nice little increase. Ooh, get to Jean with an issue. Is this going to open the door for Anderson? They're going to go 3 wide. Krejcik just dives off the track to let them through. Nice. Still a little bit side by side coming up to the roller coaster. Anderson, how brave is he? Pretty brave on the brakes, and I think he's got it.
He does. And how brave is he? Really brave. Yeah, that's another big move by Radar Anderson. Again, I talked about it just a few minutes ago, man. He's having a great drive today. I'll tell you what, better qualifying effort. We could be talking about him competing for a podium spot right now, but here we go. Yet's fighting back.
He is not going to take this one laying down as they come to the horseshoe. He looks around the outside of this difficult double apexer. I don't think that's going to come off. They make a little bit of contact, and Rugenbrink gets into it, but they come together. Rugenbrink is off, and Yet stays on.
Yikes, they
Replay.
they come together, and not like the Beatles. They come together, and well, maybe
Right
like
now.
the Beatles. They come together and then they split apart. So,
The way that Rugenbrink once, and this has brought Reed Miller a little bit closer to these two. Hairy moments, everybody survives. And the white flag comes out
yep.
for Fabian Gerber.
And in the GTO class, Rob Olenek still ways to go, coming to the end of the back straight now, into the roller coaster. But he still holds that 2.89 second advantage over Phil Lake, who's really got to worry about just over his shoulder. He's got Billy Roller right behind him. And Joe, Billy Roller going to look to set up a last lap pass here. And boy, Phil really struggled over the curve that time. He is really lucky that car didn't snap around and get loose on him. They'll take the white flag.
I think Phil's just getting aggressive with how he's driving this course to try and keep out of the draft, and you can see how much it helps Rolla down just on this one straightaway, which isn't the longest out there.
Yeah, Rolla with a legitimate shot to get this spot here from Phil.
Keeping an eye on our leader, don't worry, as we keep the cameras on the battle for second in the GTOs. Lake with only half a second buffer. Back to Rolla, who's climbed through the field with like one more before we're done. And I'm afraid we're going to have to duck away because our leader in the Blaupunkt Nissan is coming up to the line. Fabian Gerber making it look like child's play. Here in round 7 of the iRacing Kamel GT Series, the number 3 is going to win here at VIR.
Woo. That's a solid win for Gerber, man. He had this Nissan dialed in today. I don't think there's ever any question. Our GTO leader still on the back stretch. Now getting into the roller coaster. Rob's feeling it. He's spelling victory. He's got to be patient, focused here over these last few turns.
One more corner to go. Just the tricky hog pin. Lake is nowhere near to try and challenge. Rob Olenek alights to flag victory. In fact, fending off all kinds of challenges. This is an impressive drive for the number 2.
So, still a battle for 6th. It's John Rugenbrink
away with it. That's going to be it for that battle.
They fought hard over the last couple laps.
Yes, they did. Very tight over the line between those two. No one's really all that close to the rest of the field. So as they wrap it up and cross the checkers, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. And on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. We just watched round 7 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and I definitely would not describe this as a boring race. We had lots to talk about, but up at the front of both of our classes, really it was a lights to flag victory for both drivers, as Fabian Gerber took the win in the prototypes, with Nicholas Schneider finishing in second. Long ways back, 25 seconds was the gap, to tell you the pace that Gerber was able to hold. There was another equally large gap back to third, Clayton McLeod, who had to fight his way forward for that one. John Keefe going from 8th to 4th, a nice job for the Hoosier. And Radar Andresen finishing 5th, having started 9th. Another one that basically followed John through, I guess you could say. Yit to Jean. A little bit of a controversial moment, unfortunately, as he took third at the start with a bit of contact, but eventually fell backwards and finished in 6th. Michelle Rugenbrink finished in 7th. P8 goes to Reed Miller, and Tanner McCullough comes home 9th. Fabian Jungbluth with the top 10, and then Richard Keogh gets 11th here. Sean?
Joe, Rob Olenek started on the pole, didn't start on the pole. No, he did start on the pole. And he takes the checkers right for the pole. Phil Lake, second place effort. We're going to get to talk to him today. Philly Rolla honestly, he had the drive of the GTOs. He continued to just pick up spots after a bad qualifying effort. Antti Terho, thanks for coming on board today, man. That was a great race, but he's going to have to settle for 4th. Martin Kreitscherick, actually, you see, he's going to get in the mix there. Now he'll finish 12th overall in class, or 12th in class, 16th overall. Now Jamie Hall, he's going to manage a top 5 today after suffering some trouble early. A nice recovery for Hall to hang on to the top 5. Nick Bucanos, he'll finish 6th. Milan Arnozzi with a really good drive today in the top 10. He's got a 7th place finish. Hideki Koivitso, Joe. The first time I think we've ever had a race with Hideki Koivitso in it, where it was just really kind of a non-factor. We barely even talked about him today, unfortunately. He'll have to settle for 8th, 9th for Riley Thompson. He struggled early, and that was just all he had in it today. 9th for Riley. Eugenio Massa, 10th place. 11th for Chris Zylstra. Michel De Jong, of course, well documented. He'll be back next week to compete, I'm sure. He does wind up 12th. 13th for Brian Shanahan in our Audi GTO class. And then Justin Albrecht was the first man out, unfortunately, the opening lap incident. He gives him a 13th place result in the Nissans and 26th overall, Joe.
We have our winner in the GTO class ready to talk to us. Rob Olenek putting it on pole and winning, but that's not the whole story. Rob, I have to say, we were incredibly impressed with how you were able to fend off not just one car, but multiple cars that kept trying to take the lead away. What's the secret?
No kidding. I don't know. Luck. I don't know what it was. I was making mistakes. I was missing shifts, and they just couldn't quite get enough of a run on me. And then the side-by-sides, I just lucked out, I think. Maybe something happened to them, but it didn't feel like I took the corner any better, but they dropped off.
Do you consider VIR a terribly strong track for you? Because obviously you've got some pace and you've got some skills in terms of racecraft. Like, where does this rank for you?
This is only the second time I've raced here. Last time was in the Nissan when we were here last. I like the track a lot. I think that's all it comes down to. I really like the layout. It's a lot of fun. It's got a great rhythm to it. I wish we raced it more.
We didn't get to talk about it during the broadcast, but I did notice with it being very cloudy. How was the weather? What were the track conditions like? I imagine pretty grippy.
Very grippy, and it was kind of funny because the European warm-up session and ours had opposite weather, and I just figured we were in a cold warm-up session, which was lucky for us, and I just figured it was going to be super hot. And usually it is hot here, but we really lucked out getting the split the way it was in the weather that we got.
Well, congratulations. That was a phenomenal drive. One of the most impressive ones I've seen in my years of broadcasting. Have fun and celebrating your win.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
It's Rob Olenek, P1 in the GTO class, and I believe that Sean has caught up to 4th place in the prototypes. John Keefe here to talk to us.
I get to talk to John today. John, congratulations. I don't think fourth feels too bad. What about you?
No, it feels pretty good. Redemption after last week. I've got a handful of tracks that are heartbreaking when I do poorly at them. So Road America was one of those, and VIR is also one of those. So to get some redemption back here this week feels pretty good.
Well, I'm sure it feels good. How does VIR feel? You know, actually, Joe just brought it up with Rob about the temperature conditions. You feel a little fortunate that you guys got a little bit lower temperature to start with for this race? Yeah,
big time. Our race yesterday was 113 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, and yeah, it was just like driving on oil. It was a handful. So This was a nice easy drive today, all things considered.
How'd you finish yesterday?
Good question. I actually don't remember, but it was good. I think it was the top 5. I can't remember.
All right, I won't ask that question again. I promise.
That's okay. I usually do better. I usually do better in the non-broadcast. So
I think everybody shares that opinion about the way they drive, but
so much more pressure.
Talk about. Yeah, well, okay, so there you go. Talk about the traffic a little bit. I thought the traffic would be marginal. I didn't think it would be quite as. By the way, you finished 4th yesterday. I didn't think it would be quite as close as it actually wound up being. That was pretty scary at times, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was. It seemed like every time I came up on a group of Audis, it was always through the S's going uphill, or coming like down that last section prior to the start finish. And that's where there's the biggest speed difference between us. So you just had to really almost plan ahead and back off early so that you could just catch them and run underneath, on exits. So it's tricky here. But that's what's fun about it, in my opinion. So the trickier, the better in my view.
Fun and rewarding when you can get a good finish. And John, congratulations. Anybody you'd like to thank today?
Just the SimSport News group. Good, fun team. They're looking for drivers, so if anyone's looking to do like 24 Le Mans, go check them out. Get on the team. Other than that, just the community, you guys.
All right, man. Well, listen. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great week. We will see you next Saturday. Indeed.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right, and that is the great John Keefe coming in, hanging out with us for just a couple of minutes. Joe gets to talk to Phil in and around the lake.
Yes, and even though we got a 2nd place, Phil, we might need to change your name to Duncan. You were just up and down. The order, a mistake early sent you back. You climbed back forward. You and other drivers just were swapping around. What was it like from your perspective?
Yeah, a pretty crazy race. I really felt like if I got out in the lead at the start, then I might have been able to make a break. But then, yeah, like you say, I was just moving up and down and never really got settled in.
Don't know if you paid attention to the starting order and where Villirola was on the grid. Were you surprised when he suddenly rocked up on your relative?
No. Yesterday I had a really great battle with him, and so I knew he had the same pace as all of us. So yeah, I wasn't surprised to see him there at the end.
Little bit of contact between a few cars out there today. Do you think that there was fair racing from everything you saw? You think anybody was hard done by?
The only contact that I actually witnessed was between me and Michelle, and I've only seen it from when it happened, and from what I could tell, he just turned in. He knew I was there, so I don't know why he turned in. But yeah, so it's unfortunate for him.
Sometimes those things happen. But before we let you go, happy with 2nd, disappointed? Do you think you had anything for Rob if it was just you two?
Yeah, I think I could have battled with him the whole race. I'm really happy for Rob because we're all in the same team, so it's a 1-2 for Dirty Talk. But I would have liked to take the win.
All right. Well, congratulations on a podium anyways, and we hope to see you next week.
Yeah, you will. Thanks, guys.
That was Phil in and around the lake, finishing with a 2nd place today. With that, we are going to close things up here. And of course, we want to give a big thank you to the Kamel GT community for coming back for yet another broadcast here with the Global Sim Racing channel. We love having them each and every season. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, if you head on over to our YouTube page, there's a big red button that says subscribe. If you hit that, you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race, also much like the Lotus 49s from a couple hours ago, they're going to Bathurst here. Boy, multi-class racing at that track is quite an interesting endeavor, I can tell you that. That'll be Saturday, August 4th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.